Hello, friends. I hope you can't hear the fan whirring behind my laptop. That is on because it's very warm. So I have the fan on to stop me from melting. We have got a lot of news to cover today. I'm just going to tilt this way. Today's photograph for the background was sent in by Penny, and I wonder if you can tell what I'm sat in front of. While we do that, let's say some hellos. Hello, Leona. I'm also amazed that YouTube has notified you that something is happening with the channel, because even when I put my own notifications on, it occasionally lets me know about 2 days later that I've put a video out. So I'm amazed and astounded that it's let you know. That's excellent news. Hello, Jessie. Happy Monday to you. Steve, it seems that not enough time has passed since the last live. No, this month has gone fast. It has been 28 days, but it has gone quick. Hello, Shane. Motherhood is currently we're in a testing phase because we have a preschooler who's going into summer holidays, so there's a lot of the rules lax up a little bit because it's summer holidays. So he is bordering on feral. And then I have a almost 1-year-old who has now got 2 bottom teeth and 2 starts at the top to they're now erupted. So we've had teething, which was a fun sleeps for the week during that. He's also crawling, climbing, threatening to walk. And when I'm fairly sure that when he starts, he's just going to run, likely in the direction other than anybody else. So I'm girding my loins because I feel that the next weeks, months maybe, are going to be testing, but fun. I laugh a lot. I also pull this face a lot. And my current catchphrase is, "Mummy doesn't want to spend the night in A&E," to which my eldest son laughs, and then my youngest son looks at him and giggles as well. So it's a circus, essentially. It's a circus. Hello, Penny, you're not allowed to say what I'm sat in front of. I believe you're the Penny that sent this in. Good evening. Hope you are well too. Hello, Yentel. Welcome. Glad that you're here to watch a live. Hello, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining. Medusa Snudpuckle. It's not Westminster. It is a memorial, but not one in Westminster. Glad to know it, Sid. Thank you for letting me know that you also got notified. Hello, Sharon. Welcome, welcome. Coco, hello. Hello, the antique little girl. Welcome so much. Hi, Fluffy Monkey M. So good to see so many of you in. I'm seeing everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. So, as per, we have got a lot of news to cover. Has anybody come up with where we are? Now, Katia, you're testing me because I'm going to be honest with you. I don't actually know because my geography is so appalling. I don't know if you're correct because I don't know if the place where this is in Norwich. I have no grasp of geography at all. Let me check if it's in. Let me check if it's in. Let me check if it's in Norwich. I don't think it is, but I could be entirely wrong. So let me check. Is that near Norwich? No, not Norwich. Dorset. It's in Dorset. Okay, good. Right. Nowhere near Norwich. Excellent. Any guesses? Any final guesses? So Penny has sent us today to the monument to Sir Edmund, and I'm going to pronounce this, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get it correct, but I'm going to try. Sir Edmund Uvedale, Uvedale, in Wimborne Minster, which is in Dorset, where I was on my holidays with my boys the other weekend. So Dorset and Norwich, I've just remembered Norwich, Norfolk, correct? Is that right? Oh my gosh, I need to get better at geography. This is wholly embarrassing. But they are, I think, almost diagonal from each other, if my geography is anywhere near being appropriate, which, spoiler alert, it almost certainly isn't. But thank you for sending us to this. Absolutely. They did know how to do they didn't know how to do death then. I mean, the Victorians do death very well. But, I mean, Loosh, look at him. Look at this guy. Love it. Excellent. Scarlett, Norwich is Norfolk. I thought so, but I said it when you can't make those statements about geography, babe. You cannot. Jessie, sell me a canal map puzzles. I don't know what that means. Are we talking about jigsaws of canals? I mean, that sounds fun, regardless. Samantha, draw me like one of your French girls. Straight facts. Straight facts. Loosh. I love. Bacon Monarchies. He is absolutely chillaxing. Good for him. It's been a long life. He's chilling with the illin. Okay. Let us then do the usual. So we have got, thank you everybody who's joined live. And also, if you're watching on the playback, thank you as well. We have got updates. We've got repatriation news. We've got new news. We've got ding-dongs. This time, it's all about people being silly. There are no fallacies involved, which I'll be honest with you, I'm disappointed. I do like it when my ding-dongs have some fallacies involved. And we've got a whole bunch of events and exhibitions, all sorts of things. Some things that are available online. We've got some book launches. I've got a shameless self-promotion plug. It's going to be a good time. Articles are listed in the description box, and they are numbered there, and those numbers correspond with what you're going to see on screen in a moment with the bottom of the slides. Thank you so much to everybody who sent me articles. We are about to do the list of thank yous. I believe I have seen some things coming in yesterday and today. So if they aren't covered this time, then they'll make it into next time. So then, without further ado, shall we say our thank yous? Thank you for sending me articles. Zoe, Jessie, Natalie, Count Balerion. Now, Count Balerion, you did send me an email with your name, but you signed it off as Count Balerion. So I put up here what you sign your name as, because that is what I'm assuming you would like me to do. So if anybody who's sending me news items, if you sign off the email with the name you'd like to be on this slide with, then that's what I do. Thank you, Janet, Yvonne, Shane, Kathy, Beth, Alice, Mackenzie, Leona, Joseph, Jenna, Elverta, Elaine, Maureen, Rebecca, Steve, and Kelly. Thank you ever so much. And it's good. We've got some really super cool things to look at today. Let's hop in without further ado with our first update. This is actually an update to the video I made on alchemy, because it turns out, pals, they've sort of done it. They've done alchemy. They have turned lead into gold. Now, granted, this, quote, transmuted metal only lasted a fraction of a second before it was obliterated, but it can tell researchers more about how atoms change. So physicists have turned lead into gold. And I did double check when this article was sent. So I was like, hang on, could this possibly be an April Fool's? I don't believe it is. This has been done at CERN. They fired lead atoms at each other. when they missed, they create a high energy pulse. This led to 3 protons being ejected from lead, making gold. They did only make 29 trillionths of a gram of gold. So you aren't getting your wedding band out of this. But it has been very interesting, obviously, because now we've done alchemy. We've done alchemy. I'm not even going to pretend to claim to know whether this is science that's real. It's in a scientific journal, and how weird is that? Steve, it was very expensive gold. Yeah, I think using CERN to create that minuscule amount of gold, it's probably, for the seconds it existed, it probably was the most expensive gold, I would imagine, on Earth. I do wonder if its fraction of a second of existence actually threw off the gold standard for a second, if that's how that works. So Marianne, CERN did do it. It just sounds like, I mean, alchemy has for centuries just been synonymous with magic or fakery, but not anymore. Alchemy is possible. As Wheezy say hello. I tapped you there, Wheezy. Hello. It is bananas. It's bananas that alchemy's real. It's bananas. Beth, it's the next checkpoint for alchemy. Biologist, over to you. Yeah, come on then. Bit of the old philosopher's stone for eternal life. Next up, news about the Grand Egyptian Museum. Turns out not open. What is happening? It's delaying. I thought it was open, but apparently it's delaying its opening until the 4th quarter of this year. Now, it was supposed to be fully open on the 3rd of July. You could have fooled me. I thought it was open in June. So apparently not. But it's now, and apparently it has been partially open since October 2024. But I think for the full gallery opening, it's going to be in the last quarter of this year. Now, I don't know whether that means that all of the galleries that are currently open will remain open all of that time. So if you are going with the intention of going to the Grand Egyptian Museum, I mean, I would say check the website, but that isn't all. The news is more up to date than the website. So it's not open. It's not all open yet. Hold on to your butts. It might happen soon. And of course, when we get the update of it opening fully, I will, of course, update you. The Bayer Tapestry. We talked about this. The Bayer Tapestry is coming to the UK. It's going to be coming to the British Museum because the museum at Bayer is closing. They're doing a whole regeneration. It's going to be incredible. So in the meantime, while it's closed, it's going to be here at the British Museum until July 2027. That is going to be the 1000th anniversary of the birth of William the Conqueror as well. And there appears to be plans for a cultural exchange. So the Sutton Hue helmet is among the things that's going to be sent to Normandy as part of this exchange. They're going to lend the Lewis chess pieces as well, we're told. And it should be, I think, a really exciting exhibition when that opens at the British Museum. Of course, I think it's likely it's going to be a paid exhibition. I haven't managed to check yet. But that, of course, does mean that if you're going to go to see the Bayer Tapestry in the British Museum, it will involve paying for it. So therefore, supporting the British Museum and its behaviour. I have mentioned before, I don't know where I stand on this. I'll be honest with you. I think I've made it very clear that I do have issues with how the British Museum is comporting itself with regards to repatriation. I also respect the cultural exchange of the Bio Tapestry coming here and what we're going to be loading to Normandy. I think it's important to support things like that. So I really don't know where I stand on paying for this exhibition, and I may have to decide close to the time. So we will see. Jessie, is the British Museum going to give it back at the end of the loan? I would imagine they will have little choice. I say that though. I say that. I think I do think that I think to give them their dues, I do think that their days of becoming a repository for stolen goods, more stolen goods, would be over. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to give back the ones they currently have. Steve, I highly doubt that the British Museum would allow me, with the way I've been outspoken, I highly doubt they would allow me to do a guided tour. But if I was able to, I would certainly be willing. But I totally get that when you're running an institution, you will turn towards individuals who support what you're up to. I get that. E.T., how does one celebrate a man whose coronation led to a cathedral fire and later harried the north? It's an excellent question. It's an excellent question. I think the Norman conquest is one of those things that it remakes the country, and it does so through incredibly brutal means, and that is worthy of comment, criticism, and question, I think. The Getty Villa has reopened 6 months after that terrifying fire in the Palisades. So the fire swept through LA in January. And as we know, we talked about it, it did come incredibly close to the Getty Villa. I believe it got to the point where some of the gardens, like the bushes in the gardens, were ablaze. But the Getty Villa was secured. I also remember seeing that a lot of the staff stayed to try and put out fires as best they could, even when theoretically it would have been a lot safer for them to leave for their own security. So there was a 6-month closure, and now it's reopened. There was damage on the 65-acre site, so there were some of the frescoes became soot-stained. They filled the central reflecting pool with clean water, but they didn't remove all the traces of the blaze, which did destroy, as we see here, 6,800 structures and killed at least 12 people. So they have left burnt eucalyptus stumps in place, and they also saved some of the singed Italian cypress trunks. And they're going to be preparing fact sheets for visitors to see and contextualize these things, because as with so many historical objects, when things like this happen, as horrendous as they are, washing away any trace of them at sites like this or on artifacts is also not what one should do, because even though it's a modern event, it becomes part of the object's history, and fully removing any trace of that story is seen as being irresponsible in terms of the conservation of the piece and its historical context. Yeah, Steve, exactly. It's its context, exactly. We have got some news about the sentencing of the 2 absolute planktons who cut down Sycamore Gap. They have been sentenced to more than 4 years in prison. The judge called the act deliberate and mindless. I agree. And they were sentenced to 4 years, 3 months. The jury convicted them on 2 counts of criminal damage for damaging both Sycamore Gap and the wall. They had faced a possible maximum sentence of 10 years in jail. They drove to the site in one of the friends' Range Rovers, and then they sliced down the trunk of the tree in a matter of minutes. There has been some suggestion that the point or the plan here was to do this to gain some kind of notoriety. I've seen that suggested. However, I'm not sure where they've got that information from. It's quite hard to access court records, so I'm not sure where that reporting is coming from. They did it with the idea or the purpose that they might get some kind of notoriety. Either way, mindless destruction of something that brought a lot of people joy and formed a really iconic part of our landscape and had done for the better part of 200 years. So don't know why they did it, but I hope they have a lovely time in prison. And this is they're going to now have a criminal record. So good luck getting a job. However, they are now going to display part of the illegally felled tree. And it says here that you can actually hug part of the tree. Leona says they wanted to become famous and they kept a part of it to prove it was them. Interesting. And so in some ways, what I am going to say, if that is their aim, then from this point on, any further updates, I will not use their names. No, we're not gonna give them any more publicity or promotion. They will just be the fools who cut down the Sycamore Gap tree, or the nobodies who cut down the Sycamore Gap tree. I'm not going to name them. No, thanks. But yes, so there is going to be a display, and you're going to be able to hug this tree. I am just checking as to where it's going to be on display at the Sill National Landscape Discovery Centre, which is about 2 miles or 3 kilometres from where the tree once stood. So that's because in the days and months after the tree was felled, this location became a place of celebration and memories. Visitors left post-it notes, letters, drawings, messages expressing grief, love, and hope. So this is about finding a space for that to have a positive outcome now. The tree piece is going to be on public display from the Friday after this article was published, which was the 10th of July. So that means it's already out on display. So, Steve, I think go to the Sill website and see what days they're open. Maybe they're open. They may well be open 7 days a week. Sharon, you've asked this question, have they planted a new tree? And it's made me wonder, because I am under the impression that the remaining stump has started sprouting. So I don't know what the plan is there, if they're also going to plant another tree alongside it. We have talked about this, but it's actually just escaped my memory as to what is going on. Leona, yes. So the stump's got a new shoot which is being protected. Was there? Because there was also people offering to provide saplings of the same sort of tree, but I think they're going to stick with the sprouting. They're going to. I think they're going to see what happens with the sprout. That's what I remember happening too. They're going to stick and see what happens with the sprouting. So as and when there's updates on that, I will pass that information on as and when we find out more about it. So those are the updates. We are going to hop into our repatriation / decolonization news now. So heading in there. After 150 years, a prized box is returning to an Indigenous nation in Canada. This is a Bentwood Box. And when the plane first took off from Vancouver's airport bound for the Great Bear Rainforest, Kwisatzu Elroy White was giddy with excitement. Inside the cramped plane, White, who serves as an elected councillor and hereditary chief of the Heiltsuk Nation, glanced over at the seat next to him and thought about his mission, bringing his travelling companion home for the first time in 150 years. Hidden underneath a large grey flight bag, packaged carefully, was an ancient cedar Bentwood box. This box was honoured by the community in their big house during ceremonies to ratify their nation's new constitution. Bentwood boxes, we're told, are crafted from a single piece of cedar wood that's been curved on 3 sides through steam and fastened shut on the 4th with wooden pegs. This was a technique perfected by coastal Indigenous communities over centuries, and the boxes were both ceremonial and practical. They are watertight containers often used to store food and valuable goods, and they were obviously incredibly useful on canoe voyages across sections of the Pacific. Before it takes on a distinctive shape, each box begins as a strip of western red cedar wood, and it's removed from the trunk of a living giant in the woods. This technique is known as bark stripping, often leaves a rectangular bark strip scar visible centuries later. In the late 1800s, federal Indian agents and missionaries plundered coastal communities, often under the guise of conservation. And the removal of items with deep cultural value coincided with Canada's ban on the potlatch, a gift-giving ceremony that long underpinned relations between clans and neighbouring nations. Many items were sold under duress, including mortuary poles, masks, and Bentwood boxes. They ended up scattered all over the world. So in 2020, when searching for a piece of jewellery, a couple based in Salt Lake City spotted a Bentwood box for auction in Vancouver. They had spent years, this couple, in Alaska, South America, and British Columbia, purchasing contemporary pieces from Indigenous artists. They were always interested in Bentwood boxes. This box was unique, a heavy lid inlaid with shimmering snail shells. All the auctioneers could say it was the boxes from the 1880s and designed from an artist from the Heiltsuk Nation, a people renowned for their craftsmanship. They bought the box, took it back home to Salt Lake City. Then, through personal contacts, they set out to do what they thought was right, to return the box. For more than a year, it sat in the office in downtown Vancouver until the Heiltsuk community worked out a plan that involved it being escorted back to the town of Bella Bella. The return box represents a broader effort by this nation to repatriate more than 1,000 items at more than 36 institutions around the world and in countless private collections. So it's incredible this is now back, and it offers the artists of this community a chance to get up close and personal with their cultural heritage and the techniques that they are still practicing. They get to hands-on potentially be involved with the heritage pieces of the skills that they are learning or expert in themselves. Wheezy, unfortunately, when it comes to using StreamYard, which is what I'm using now, once this is up on screen, I can't zoom in. However, if you can dual window, if you're watching on your laptop or maybe you've got another device, perhaps you can take a look through going to the description box and clicking on number 7, and then you'll be able to scroll in. It is one of the downsides of this that I can't zoom in on specific parts of articles. I wonder if there's a way to work around it, but I've yet to find it. there are new reports of a roadmap to repatriation of Indigenous artefacts in British Columbia and beyond. 2 studies developed in tandem by the First Peoples Cultural Council and Q Enterprise Corporation. They call for substantial funding from the provincial and federal governments, a repatriation accreditation for museums, and a centralised database for communities to navigate the process and understand the costs. The studies are acting as a framework for future planning and grant applications for First Nations looking to restore and retrieve stolen artefacts. The reports have found that 100,000 British Columbia First Nation items are in 229 institutions, that being museums and universities around the globe. And among those items, that does include 2,500 human remains, which is upsetting and a lot. The survey only had a 50% response rate from British Columbia First Nations, meaning the numbers are therefore likely much higher. In the last 2 years, RBCM has repatriated items to 3 British Columbia First Nations. Quote, organising community, conducting research and preparing for repatriation is often an intense, long-term and costly process. And that's just the beginning. That's according to one report. The studies highlight that 60% of both British Columbia First Nations and colonial institutions, being museums and universities, that responded to the survey report having spent well over $1 million on repatriation. Of those 2 groups, 50% responded they would need $1 million or more over the next 5 years to continue the repatriation work. So they have set it out in 4 distinct phases. So phase 1, planning and research in the community, building repatriation teams, hiring staff, conducting community consensus, and the necessary research to locate ancestors and belongings. Moving into phase 2, preparing for repatriation at institutions, working directly with institutions, so travel, on-site research, preparation for repatriation. Phase 3, repatriation takes place. Objects being transported back home, training on relocating belongings. Phase 4, post-repatriation stewardship. So that is including reinterments and burials, maintenance of grave houses and cultural facilities for long-term care, shared stewardship agreements, and ongoing research. There should also, we're told, be funding for First Nations to facilitate items in their own museums or cultural centres. So as and when this hopefully gets implemented, I will, of course, update you of the effect. Now, I'm just going to flag up the next slide. Is I may not conduct myself with my usual measured decorum. Because I'll tell you something for free. Liz Truss, on the one hand, makes me feel really good about myself because she is living proof that for somebody to experience imposter syndrome, like I frequently, almost daily do, to think that maybe they aren't good enough, 9 times out of 10, that individual will be a person who is incredibly capable. And Liz Truss is proof of that, because here is a woman who was outlasted by a lettuce, who has the political and economic acumen of a Tic Tac, who suffered one of the most embarrassing professional catastrophes, the sort of catastrophe that if the equivalent happened to me, I would be under a blanket for the foreseeable. This is change your face, change your name, try and change your accent, levels of embarrassment. And yet, here she is poking her fluffy little head above the parapet to give an opinion on something else that she doesn't understand. The fact that she is described as the former British Prime Minister, which of course, embarrassingly, she is a stain on our nation. A stain on our nation. So, Lettuce Truss and a, quote, hard right lobby group. I mean, hard right, I may even go further. Some of the names, the signatories on this list are emotionally immature grifters who get hurt in the fee-fees because the world and the conversation has moved on and they feel left behind. These people are grifters. They are grifters. They are stoking culture wars, as they love to do, putting their names to a letter claiming they would take legal action over covert plans to return the Parthenon marbles to Greece. I don't think they know what the word covert means, because covert means secret. The discussions about returning the Parthenon sculptures aren't secret, babe. It's been talked about for decades. I'm going to have an embolism. This is going to... I feel my blood pressure. My retinas are wired for base. Like this. This letter addressed to Keir Starmer and the Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy, as well as the trustees of the British Museum. So your mates then, okay, was organised by a right-wing campaign group called Great British Pack. Who's funding them? Question mark. It's led by the Conservative activist Keir Bullivant and the former Reform Deputy co-leader Ben Habib. So lovely individuals, as I'm sure you will understand. It takes its inspiration from political action committees in the US, which use donations to fund campaigns for or against candidates and policies. So this is the back door in for some deeply unpleasant policies, and getting that funding into people, because it won't just be this, will it? This is offensive enough, but this cluster of individuals, they are a gateway for the desperate fundraising of Christo-fascists. So, apparently saying that this was scaremongering, Bullivant called the accusations a smear campaign. Well, okay, sweetheart. Hip dogs holler. They are talking about an accelerated campaign to remove the Elgin marbles, they call them the Elgin marbles, because of course they do, from the British Museum. The experts in archaeology and antiques have criticised their intervention, presumably because they are unqualified to comment. Dan Hicks, a professor of contemporary archaeology at the University of Oxford, so eminently qualified to comment, says, quote, the accusation of a covert and accelerating campaign appears to be aimed at publicly appointed trustees, whereas in reality, it is the structure, funding and identity of the Great British Pack, which is opaque and concerning. Ding, ding, ding. Perhaps signatories could explain who and what exactly this group is and who is paying for it. This letter is a desperate culture warrior exercise in scaremongering and intimidation developed by undefined political actors. He added, international loans have been a normal part of the operation of museum exhibitions for more than a century. To give just one example, the British Museum is going to get the buyer Tapestry, for example. Many will question why the UK's National Museum remain unable to make permanent returns of stolen cultural objects on a case-by-case basis, as other British museums are able to do. As some, myself included, have been asking why a National Museum, directors and trustees are not calling for a change in those antiquated 1960s laws, but to call into question the legality of making loans from Britain to an EU nation would be very odd indeed. Christos Tsirioganis, who heads illicit antiquities trafficking research for the UNESCO Chair on Threats to Cultural Heritage. We have spoken about him extensively because when it came to loads of the work that was done by the Manhattan DA's office. Yes, Manhattan DA's office. He was the one who was responsible for the research. He explains, quote, while it is completely unacceptable that the public in both countries remains in the dark about the content of the negotiations, I agree. It was reported years ago in the British press that the majority of the British public supports the unconditional and permanent return of all the Parthenon sculptures to Greece. In reality, this letter harms the interests of the British people and state and disrupts the relationship between two traditional allies, bound by friendship and blood ties in 2 world wars. Both governments, not just the trustees of the British Museum, bear equal responsibility for reaching a historically just solution. We are going to keep an eye on Great British Pack because I'm sure it won't be too long before we find out who's funding them. And I am inclined to think that some of those people funding it are also funding and have funded what is going on with other far-right movements across the world. And these sorts of culture wars are they are about stoking division. At their core, they are, I firmly believe, white supremacist in nature. I use the term Christo-fascist because I think there is an element to which these are frequently extreme members and proponents of what are described as Christian faith. I don't know that it's anything that Jesus Christ would recognize as based on his teachings. And I think that they want to stoke division among people who are not millionaires and billionaires, because I think these are very wealthy people. And I'm inclined to say that a lot of what we're seeing going on, where, I mean, it's happening in the press over here, and maybe I'm a conspiracy nut, maybe I am, but I'm seeing increasingly a lot of, and we've heard about how articles are being propagated by Russian actors, but also in-house domestic far-right groups in this country, where they are stoking tensions about migrant hotels, quote, or asylum seeker hotels. And communities are being told that their money that should go to them is being taken up by these individuals. The reason why their housing is, they haven't got access to housing, they haven't got access to various things, is because of asylum seekers. Meanwhile, generational billionaires like the Duke of Westminster, who has just had a baby, their first child, who will never pay inheritance tax, never, but owns so much land in this country. Let's not talk about that. So I think this is a concerted effort, and the culture wars being stoked about repatriation, and the culture wars being stoked about DEI, and questions about who should get Medicaid, or in this country, PIP, and talking about notions of the deserving and undeserving poor, and what kind of refugees we should accept. I just think it's all very targeted about taking the attention away from a particular group whose hoarding of homes and wealth have impoverished globally more people than we can even fathom. Is my opinion. France has passed a law to return an Ivorian drum stolen by colonial troops. French MPs have unanimously adopted legislation allowing Paris to return a Côte d'Ivoire, the Digili Akwai talking drum, which colonial troops seized from the Aribi tribe in 1916. This talking drum is one of tens of thousands of artworks and other prized artifacts looted by France during the first half of the 20th century. It's 3 meters long and it weighs 430 kilograms. It was used as a communication tool by African people to transmit messages between different areas. The sound from it could be heard 20 kilometers away, enabling the convening of assemblies or issuing alerts in the cases of disaster. So kind of like an air raid siren, I suppose. Or, the French are coming, quick. When in 1916, Achan villagers refused to participate in road construction work, colonial authorities seized the drum in retaliation. From 1922, it was exhibited at the Trocadero Museum near the Eiffel Tower, and a century later, it joined the Quai Brunley Museum, where it was restored. It's been waiting there in a crate ever since. And the picture, it's small on screen. It is an incredible piece as well. The drum can't be returned without changing the law because it's part of France's public collections. So a text adopted by MPs on Monday specifies that by exemption, the drum ceases to be part of the collection. Without a framework of legislation concerning goods looted by during the colonial period, France has no other option than to pass laws for each restituted object. And thus we see a way that items in the British Museum could also find their way to where they're supposed to go. The legislation voted this week specifies that French authorities have 1 year to transfer the drum to the Côte d'Ivoire. This drum is not just an object, but, quote, a symbol of resistance. A resistance fighter was captured, kidnapped, and has been held captive for a century. So this is a liberation, and good for them. Absolutely. It is. It's very big, which I assume is how the sound of it was able to travel so far. And the workmanship on it is just absolutely gorgeous. It's a beautiful piece that is obviously so incredibly rich in meaning and significance. So this couldn't go in Ding Dong because I don't believe we've actually. Oh, have we got a Ding Dong on display? She's lifting up something. An erotic ancient mosaic that was stolen by a Nazi captain during World War II has been returned to Pompei. The mosaic depicts a pair of lovers in a state of undress, the male lounging on a bed, the female figure standing, lovely bottom out, facing away from the viewer. She's got a peach little behind. This artwork was repatriated from Germany through diplomatic channels, having been returned from the heirs of the last owner, a deceased German citizen. The owner had received the mosaic as a gift from a Wehrmacht captain assigned to the military supply chain in Italy during the war. This mosaic dates between mid-last century BC and the 1st century. Is considered to be, quote, a work of extraordinary cultural interest. And it might have decorated the floor of a bedroom at what is now the archaeological park of Pompei, of course. It's domestic love becoming an artistic subject. The heirs of the mosaic's last owner in Germany contacted the Carabinieri unit in Rome that's dedicated to protecting cultural heritage. It was in charge of the investigation, asking for information about how to return the mosaic to the Italian state. It was assigned to the archaeological park of Pompei, where suitably catalogued, it will be protected and available for educational research purposes. So we can see it's on display there. Photos posted on social media show the mosaic being handed over by police and later being put on display. The person in charge of the sites, Zutrigal, recalls the so-called Pompei curse, where there's a popular tradition or superstition that anybody who steals artifacts from Pompei will be hit with this curse. It suggests that those who steal finds from the ancient city will experience bad luck or misfortune. This has been fueled over the years by several tourists who return stolen items, claiming they brought bad luck and caused tragic events. Bum on the floor. Now, I think images like this are supposed to be an inspiration for possibly one's coitus. And I suppose it very much depends on the position you're going to put yourself in when indulging in that coitus as to whether or not you are looking at the ceiling or the floor or indeed the wall. And maybe they were splattered everywhere for flexibilities to be served. I don't know if a Nazi would want this piece, Estragnosti, to dislike it. I don't think they would have seen this as being deviant art. I think they would, because the obsession with Imperial Rome was pretty strong when it came to that group of individuals. So I don't know. Yeah, the curse of stealing. It's that we talked about this before, isn't it? Take only photographs, leave only footprints. Oh, Steve, yeah, that's the point. It isn't very Aryan. I should know. But I suppose if they didn't think it was, if they thought it was deviant, they tended to destroy it, didn't they? So we've also got a headless statue that sat in a museum for 58 years, has been brought home. This is a statue of Marcus Aurelius, and it's been repatriated to Turkey after being illegally excavated in the 1960s. But experts literally had to get their hands dirty to make it happen, we're told. A bronze statue of Marcus Aurelius has been returned to Turkey after years on display in Cleveland, Ohio, following an illegal artifact heist. We're told it's been the subject of decades-long ownership debate, finally resolved through the intervention of the Manhattan DA's office and the US Department of Homeland Security. To verify Turkey's claim to the statue, officials had to scratch at dirt buried in the statue with their fingernail in order to obtain soil samples. So there we have the dirty nail thing happening. It is an incredibly beautifully crafted piece, isn't it? The very cool draping. Yeah, it's gorgeous. So laboratory tests confirmed the soil inside the statue matched that found in another statue seized in 1967, now housed in the Burda Museum. There was also, we're told, a bit of a Cinderella element at play. Experts from the ministry made a silicone mould of the statue's foot and brought it back to Bhuban to see if they fit the base they believe the carving once stood upon, and it had a match. So they molded the foot and then they took it over. They were like, does it fit? And like cinders, it did. On Valentine's Day 2025, the Office of the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin L. Bragg Jr. announced that the Cleveland Museum of Art had withdrawn its case and agreed to return the statue. Now the statue has been returned to its country of origin in what the museum describes as a, quote, milestone in the country's fight against the trafficking of cultural property. And it's set to be put on display for the public in Ankara. And we're on to our new news now. A Bronze Age burial ground has been found beneath a Welsh park. Over the past several years, excavations between Cardiff's Trelai Park, if I've mispronounced that, I do apologise, which is a popular spot for sport and recreation, we're told, has unveiled thousands of years of local history. It's close to the Iron Age Carew Hell Fort, as well as an extensive Roman-era villa. They found recently a Bronze Age roundhouse dating back to 1500 BC, thought to be the oldest dwelling in Cardiff. The team said the fact that the cemetery contained pits with cremated human remains suggests the deceased may have been cherished family members, particularly as it was found in such close proximity to the roundhouse. The work has demonstrated that the archaeological site is much more substantial than originally thought, and providing a window into the lives of the city's very earliest settlers, people who lived there 3,000 years ago. Isn't it cool? How fascinating. A pristine Etruscan tomb has been found in Italy, containing more than 100 untouched artifacts. So this is a civilization that predated the Roman Republic and has been found in central Italy. Many other Etruscan tombs have been excavated in the area, but all have been subject to some degree of looting. This, though, is a pristine tomb dating to the 7th century BC, and thus could offer incredible insights into the Etruscan burial practices. This completely sealed burial chamber is a rare find. In the internal hilly region of central Italy, where the SGARP team works, a preserved chamber tomb of this age has never before been excavated with modern archaeological techniques. It is a unique opportunity for our project to study the beliefs and burial traditions of this fascinating pre-Roman culture. Absolutely it is. They found the sealed tomb in the ancient Etruscan town of San Giuliano, about 43 miles or 70 kilometres northwest of Rome. They have documented more than 600 Etruscan tombs in the region since their project began in 2016, but this is the only one that they found that has not been looted. They have completed the excavation of the tomb, but the study and analysis of the archaeological data is still just beginning. So I think, friends, expect more updates on this. They do think, based on the preliminary analysis, that there are 4 individuals buried in the tomb, 2 male-female pairs. So perhaps partners, we will see, I think. So this is going to be very interesting as they lay out what's gone on there. Julesy, it's crazy that there was even one unspoiled. It's the fact that there's that number, all of which had some degree of looting, but this one was skipped over. I'd be very interested to know more about why they think this one was skipped over. That would be also very interesting. Can't wait to see the artifacts. Me neither. I'm sure we will as well. Submerged blocks from the Great Lighthouse Alexandria are being brought up. So this is from the 3rd century BC Lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It's thought to have reached a height of 330 feet. But it was toppled by earthquakes around the 14th century. The ruins of it were found by underwater archaeologists beneath Alexandria in 1994. Now, though, they have lifted 22 of the monument's massive submerged blocks from the sea floor. Included in this are monumental door lintels and jambs that weigh 70 to 80 tons each. A team from the Pharos project are planning to study and scan each element, adding them to the collection of the 100 blocks that have already been digitized underwater. They're going to stitch these items together and then hopefully create a virtual model of the lighthouse that they hope provide new clues about its construction, design, and ultimate collapse. So that's very exciting too. Steve, shows how much we have yet to find about the location, things we know the location of. Maybe it goes to the Grand Egyptian Museum. I mean, if it does that mean it's going to take even longer to open? Maybe no more new things. No more new things until they're fully open. Then more new things, because I'm just concerned that if more new things go there, it may just never open fully. A Roman army camp has been found in the Netherlands, which is apparently beyond the Empire's frontier. This is beyond their northern frontier. Researchers used a computer model to pinpoint its location. This rare find at a site called Hoog Burlo shows that Roman forces were venturing beyond the lower German lines, the boundary that ran along the Rhine, roughly 15.5 miles or 25 kilometres south of the camp. This is only the fourth Roman temporary camp, so it's quite a rare find. The fact that it was discovered in the north of the Lower Germanic Limes, beyond the border of the empire, tells us that Romans did not perceive the Limes as the end of their empire. The computer program, we're told, doesn't disappoint. It took into account roads and water availability, and it looked for the typical playing card-shaped camps the Romans constructed, and thus we have it. So in January 2025, the team visited the site to dig trenches and confirm the site actually held an ancient fort. The fort was large, 9 acres or 3.6 hectares, shaped like a rectangle with rounded corners. A V-shaped ditch, 6.6 feet or 2 meters deep and 10 feet wide, or 3 meters wide. An earthen wall, several entrances. However, the team only found a few artifacts at the site, including a fragment of Roman military armour. The limited number of finds is not surprising, as the camp was only in use for a short period of time, days or maybe weeks, and soldiers would have travelled light. The small number of finds made it hard to date the camp, but by examining the armour and comparing the newfound site to a camp found in 1922, the team dated the newly discovered camp to the 2nd century AD. The people who lived in the area, the Frisi and the Chamavi, already had ties with the Romans. The Frisians were generally on good terms with the Romans and traded with them. Historical sources mention a treaty in which the Frisians paid taxes in the form of cowhides, and they also provided soldiers for the auxiliary troops and members of Nero's imperial bodyguard, Nero ruling between AD 54 and AD 68. Count Balerion, thank you very much for the super sticker. That's incredibly kind of you. There are, as well, we're going to be seeing quite a lot of Roman finds, because the new news has got some exciting, it's a lot of Roman stuff this time, but that's cool. For example, this, which I am pretty sure, if you go on to Etsy, other stores are available, they are making modern versions of this. And I have seen very stylish, beautiful young ladies with flowing manes of curly hair and glitter freckles all over their gorgeous faces, wearing a bangle on the top of their arm that is identical to this, and they are using it as their purse. I've seen it happening, and I think it's brilliant. This is what they have found is, Samantha, I swear I've seen that on Etsy. Thank you. I'm not going nuts. I've seen it on Etsy. I've seen this at Coachella. I mean, I wasn't there, obviously. I'm not cool enough to be at Coachella, but I've seen cool girls at Coachella wearing these. I swear. So this is, I've seen them being worn on the top of the arm. This is being called a wrist purse. Maybe this is smaller and it fits here. And it's essentially, you have to take it off your arm to open it. So you can, so as your arm keeps it closed, so essentially no one can get your money because it's on top of your arm as a piece of jewelry. It's a brilliant idea. This is an 1800-year-old Roman soldier's wrist purse that's been found in the Czech Republic, and it's bronze, and it was discovered in the Hadrasko Hill in January 2025. It was a purse fragment unearthed at the site of a temporary Roman military camp occupied by the 10th Legion. Experts identified it as a Roman warrior's forearm purse, a small tension-secured money pouch worn around the left arm to leave the right hand free for combat. No coins were found in the purse. Archaeologists did unearth a substantial number of silver Roman coins nearby. They are mainly from the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, him again, his reign, and they bear images of the emperor and his wife Faustina. The purse is estimated to have held about 50 denarii of silver, which is a decent sum, but less than the annual pay of a common legionary. It suggests the owner was a junior officer, someone responsible for the operating of funds unit, or often referred to as service cash for rations, equipment, and other logistical needs. The broad historical context gives the discovery additional significance. The Roman 10th Legion was stationed there during Marcus Aurelius' campaign against the Germanic Marcomanni and other tribes, such as the Quadi and the Sarmatian Lazyges. The emperor plans to make the region a new Roman province called Marcomania, stretching from the Danube to what is now Moravia. But these plans were abandoned due to tribal resistance and the death of Marcus Aurelius. This is currently, the fragment is on display at the Muslov Visitor Centre in an exhibition, Gateway to the Roman Empire. It includes the original artifact and a full reconstruction of the purse. Why are we not selling? Why? This should be, babe, put a reconstruction in the gift shop. When this stuff happens and I see stuff like this, I'm like, why are we not selling a reproduction in the gift shop? Because I would. I would. It's a bracelet, it's a purse, it's better than the fanny packs, which we in the UK we call a fanny pack a bum bag, because a fanny is the front bottom over here. So no one's packing any fannies, thank you. It's a bum bag. But yes, it reminds me, am I going to show my age? Or they've probably come back around now. Do you remember those scrunchies, hair scrunchies, that used to have a zip so you could put like a $5 or a $1 or whatever in them and then tie your hair up with it? Or was it trainers, kangaroo trainers? I'm calling them kangaroo trainers, but I'm not sure if they were, but if that's actually their name. I'm calling them kangaroo trainers because I believe the logo was a kangaroo and it had a little pouch in the tongue that you could put a coin in. And all of this, like secret hiding places for money, I love it. But I also think this would be really cool. And I'm sure they make a modern one. I'm sure they do. That's beautiful. We want in solid gold. I mean, look, fair, but then they might just try and rob that double hard. Leona said, I can wear it when you go out drinking, get into a fight, but just say, watch the bracelet. Look, I mean, you slip it down. It's a lovely little knuckle duster, isn't it? But there we go, Julesy. That was hive mind there. Instant brass knuckles. I enjoy the fact that we have gone from decorative coin purse to offensive weapon in a hot minute. Sarah, I'm going to need to Google that, I fear. If Balenciaga can sell a garbage bag purse, Balenciaga, everything I have learnt about them has been against my will. And some of their ad campaigns make me feel unwell. Runners have something similar with their arms and legs they can put their ideal cash into. Yes, they do, but they're not as cool as this, are they? This is I love. I like this a lot. a lot. And I want one. What else we got? Sticking with Romans, and apparently, as well as having purse bracelets, they've also got feet that mean that they were very good at swimming. Because Flipper over here, Shamu over here, eight double XL leather shoes have been recovered from a Roman era fort along Hadrian's Wall. That man is holding the sole of a shoe, and I am going to suggest something as well, that this measures more than 11.8 inches or 30 centimeters. That's a ruler. That's a ruler. Okay. So the Romans clearly had an unfair advantage because they had Bigfoot on their team. One of the archaeologists says, I think there's something very different going on here at Magna. Yeah. Cryptozoology, apparently. Even from this small sample uncovered, it's clear these shoes are much larger on average than most of the Vindelander collection. You don't say. Archaeologists unearthed an enormous leather shoe while digging at the bottom of one of Magna's ankle breaker defence ditches, a narrow, deep trench when full of water that could cause an enemy soldier to trip and snap their ankle. Delightful. The waterlogged conditions in the ditch create an oxygen-free environment that preserve the leather shoe. The sole of the giant shoe is the equivalent of a men's US 14 or a UK 13 today. I know that you can find those in shoe shops now, but when I was a girl, you had to special order shoes that size. My husband suggested it might be a peace offering for the mythical giants on the other side of the wall, a way of taming the terrifying beastly savage. Oh, maybe they just chucked 8 pairs of shoes in there. The ditch did contain a total of 32 shoes in a range of sizes from child to adults. But 25% of the shoes from that place are more than 11.8 inches long. One of them measures 12.8 inches or 32.6 centimeters. It's now the largest shoe on record in the Vindelander collection. By contrast, only 16 of the 3,704 measurable shoes from the Vindelander fort, just over 0.4%, were over 11.8 inches long. They don't know why the Magna shoes are so large. The discovery reminds us that not every population was the same. There are wide variations between regiments, and people who served along Hadrian's Wall could be cultural and physical. We can only celebrate and marvel at the diversity and differences of these people if we can see them in the archaeological data we gather today. I mean, is there going to be, I know it says it's well preserved, but is there also not going to be potentially some shrinkage because it's been wet? Could these have actually been bigger? It's big. Steve, I'll go for Steve's comment there. You can get big, thick socks on with those shoe sizes. Yes, but with that shoe size, you could get both of my feet in a big, thick sock into that shoe. That's big. It's a big shoe. They may well have used extra stuff for insulation, but they are still pointing out that it's bigger than other stuff they found. This is big. Going to Manchester for Roman finds now. A significant remain of a Roman road has been unearthed in Manchester city centre. They have found remarkable and well-preserved remains. one of the most significant finds in the city for more than 2 decades. They have found the historic road, but also domestic artefacts during the excavation, including both locally made and imported pottery, decorative glassware, and animal bones. They hope that the most significant finds will form part of an exhibition. So as and when that appears, I will, of course, update you and let you know. They are currently analysing what they find and creating the appropriate data sets. A Viking Age burial site full of ancient objects has been found in Denmark, according to experts. It's a 10th century burial site believed to have belonged to a Viking noble family that's been discovered in northern Denmark. It's got a spectacular trove of ancient objects, we're told. Pearls, coins, ceramics, and a box containing gold thread were unearthed during construction work near to Denmark's second largest city. They found that the site also contained around 30 graves dating from the second half of the 10th century, when the famous King Harold Bluetooth reigned. The graves are probably linked to a noble family from the Viking Age whose farm was discovered less than a kilometre from the burial site in the 1980s. Perhaps one of Harold Bluetooth's earls or stewards. Researchers also found some human remains, such as teeth and bones, at the site. One of the graves, which scientists believed belonged to an important woman, contained a box filled with decorative objects and a pair of scissors. The excavations are going on. They were going on until through this month. They are wrapping up now, or have recently just wrapped up. And it was a royal and commercial centre. It was one of Denmark's most important cities during the Viking Age between the 8th and 11th centuries. Hopefully, that means there's going to be a display of what they found. The Tower of London has been doing some work in the Chapel of St. Peter and Vincula. It's been described as the most significant excavation in a generation, and it is promising to, quote, redraw the map of the medieval fortress to shed light on some of the people who lived, worked, worshipped, and died at the parish church in the Tower of London. The Chapel Royal of St. Peter and Vincula was first built in the 12th century. It means the Chapel of St. Peter in chains. It was a place of worship for people in the tower and the occasional monarch who wished to be seen to be acting piously. It's been destroyed and rebuilt, even relocated. It's the burial site of Anne Boleyn, Thomas More, Jane Grey, Catherine Howard, and on and on and on. The main change has been who worshipped at the church and who got to be buried there. Prior to the reign of Henry III, there's no real understanding of who used the building. It's refurbished and used the royal chapel in that reign. For the rest of its history, it appears to be the parish church residence of the tower. There's baptisms, marriages, and funerals, which also continue on today. Under guidance from Historic England, an excavation has been run by HRP alongside pre-construct archaeology, with experts from Cardiff University handling the forensic analysis. A trial pit unearthed 2 skeletons, a middle-aged woman and a young boy, found to be members of the tower community in the early 16th century. This is the first time that subjects from the tower had undergone modern forensics, with researchers learning the woman had maintained a rich diet, lots of sugars, and the boy had suffered from a period of stress, likely from disease or malnutrition, from which he recovered a short time before his death. This year's excavations are going deeper. They've gone down as far as 10 feet, and they found the remains of more than 20 individuals that cover a broad span of English history. A 14th century collection of burials believed to be a mass grave from the Black Death, which hit London in 1348, that is thought to have killed 15% of the city's population. Others were more attentively buried. There are 3 skeletons from the 12th or early 13th century placed in coffins, one with a shroud, which is suggestive of high status. And a separate burial from the same period includes a pot containing charcoal, which is almost without precedent in England. The excavation is also colouring some of the blanks in the architectural history of the chapel. This structure currently is situated in the inner ward, which was built for Henry VIII in 1520, after an earlier edifice built by in the 13th century by King Edward I burned down. The foundations of the original building, together with evidence of a large burning event, have now been discovered. They've also found a compacted layer of stone that may relate to works carried out by Henry III in 1240, as well as a section of wall that may have formed part of the first chapel built at the site in the 1100s by Henry I. We are told there's so much more to learn through further analysis about the people as well as the buildings of one of England's most evocative historic monuments. Leona, thank you. So anybody who didn't see my shameless plugs, I was on Channel 5 in some documentaries for two weeks, 1 week, and then the next week on the Thursday. It is, I believe, available on Channel 5's playback. One is on the Great Fire of London and one is on the Great Plague. I was interviewed by Rob Rinder. So if you want to go and check it out, tell me what you think. Count Balerion. The Tower of London turns up in Asterix in Britain. The Tower of London turns up in Paddington Bear. The Tower of London rocks up. It's, it's one of those in kind of both cartoons and films. It rocks up a lot. And I tell you, it's a privilege that I get to lead sessions around there and then I get to work there. It's very cool. So the next one that we're going to show is very, very shiny, and I very, very want it. A 600-year-old amethyst, worthy of a duke. Look at it. Has been found in a medieval castle moat in Poland. Good Lord. I want it. Around 600 years ago, an aristocrat visiting a medieval castle lost an ornate piece of jewellery. Archaeologists dredged the unique amethyst set in fire-gilded silver from the muck of an old moat. They think it was perhaps part of a brooch, or maybe less likely a coronet or a crown. It is. Look at it. I want it. It's so shiny. Castle Kolno was founded in the early 13th century as a fortress and ducal palace. It served as a customs house, controlling the transport of wood. The original owner eventually sold the property to some wealthy knights. Then it was destroyed by fire in 1443 during the civil wars in Silesia. In 2010, a team began archaeological excavation at the ruined castle. They found military artifacts, cavalry items, ceramics, and then they were using Raman spectroscopic analysis, which measures the light emitted from lasers bombarding a substance to determine its molecular composition, which is why they know this is an amethyst. And then X-ray fluorescence analysis revealed that the metal parts were fire gilded and silver. So that involves considerable amounts of mercury being used. Medieval folklore suggested that amethysts could protect their wearer from intoxication, venom, gout, bad dreams, treason, deceit, captivity, blindness, enchantment, and strangulation. It's a multi-purpose gem. They could also represent faith, modesty, and martyrdom. They don't know who lost the semi-precious gem or how they lost it, but they have no doubt the person lived an aristocratic lifestyle. I think that's undeniable. Similar jewels in similar settings have been found on high-end jewellery of the period. But this amethyst is unusual because it's a high-status jewel worthy of a duke, likely lost in very mundane activity several centuries ago. Sid, on first glance of my tiny screen, I thought it was a fancy helmet. Oh my gosh, I can see that. Like a kind of face guard. That would be like something out of Game of Thrones with a sort of dinosaurs ripples around it. The magpie's looking for the shinies. This is the thing. If I was I could never be an archaeologist because I'd be like, oh yeah, that's great, pottery, yay. But then I'd see something shiny, I'd be like, oh, forget that. Shiny. My birthstone is sapphire, as is all of my children, because we're all born in the same month. 4 days apart in each case. So September is a busy and expensive month for my husband, because it's also our wedding anniversary. Timed it perfectly. 3 birthdays and a wedding anniversary. He's upset about the situation. A major Raphael discovery has emerged from a restoration that's gone on at the Vatican Museum. They have been restoring the stately hall of Constantine, which is one of its renowned Raphael rooms. It's a 10-year project that's drawn to a close, and they have found and announced a major art historical discovery. It was not assumed that the Hall of Constantine was painted only by Raphael's assistants after his death, but through the restoration, it's emerged he in fact finished 2 of the figures in the hall and had begun making preparations before he died. So they are now able to rewrite part of the history of art. Masterpieces rival, we're told, the Sistine Chapel. The magnificent Raphael rooms are named for the renowned Renaissance master, commissioned to complete them by Pope Julius II in 1509. Raphael died in 1520 at the age of 37. His 3 assistants, Giulio Romano, Gianfresco Peni, and Raffaellino de Colle, completed the Hall of Constantine according to Raphael's plans. But now we know that he was also involved. The discovery that 2 female allegorical figures in the hall, Justice and Friendship, had been painted with oil paint allowed conservators to determine they were by the hand of Raphael. The rest of the hall is painted using traditional methods, since the artist's assistants were never able to master his oil technique. Quote, from a historical and critical point of view, and also technical, it was truly a discovery. The technique used and planned by Raphael was truly experimental for the time and has never been found in another mural made with oil paint. The restoration of the Hall of Constantine began in March 2015 and it was completed in December 2024. The space during this time was only partially closed to the public. Julesy, many happy anniversary returns to your parents. Hope they are having a wonderful time. Steve, you're completely correct. I did time the birth of my children. To be fair, because the second one was an elective C-section, I could have altered the date by a few days here and there, so that it wasn't 4 days apart. Gabriel, Dominic, me, 4 days each one. But the best thing was that did mean that Gabriel genuinely thought and still thinks that he got a baby for his birthday. And if you try and get in between him and his bro, he will promptly tell you that that's his baby. And if other people come and say hello, he's like, this is my baby. This is my baby brother. He's very protective. And he wants to do everything for him. Essentially, though, he wants him to be big enough to wrestle. That's really what he's looking for. But to be fair, it seems like currently Dominic's game. He's unbothered by being wrestled, and every now and again he gives him that baby kicks like a mule. So every now and again, Gabby's thinks he's like giving him a cuddle, and Dominic's like, "Oh, game, we're playing, are we?" And he's laughing, and he boots him. And then Gabby's like, "Ow, that really hurt." Samantha, I tell him all the time because he's like, he thinks it's fun to kind of get Dominic to follow him, but of course Dominic can't quite come as fast as Gabby. But Dominic's always laughing during this. But every now and again I go, just so you know, this kid is already in clothes before you got into them. He's going to be bigger than you. Be careful, boy, because he'll come for you, even if you don't send for him. I think he's gonna lap him. I think there's going to be a time where it may be that Gabriel ends up in Dominic's hand-me-downs. It's entirely possible. Entirely possible. A lost Turner work has been sold, but the museum, who was really trying to get it, have lost out. It's been described as them putting in Herculean efforts to bring a J.M.W. Turner painting home to the city that inspired it. This was painted in 1972 when Turner was 17. It features the hot spring and spa in Bristol. It's called the Rising Squall. It's sold at Sotheby's auction house on Wednesday. It's sold to a private UK collector for £1.9 million, which was 8 times the estimate price. The Bristol Museum and Art Gallery was the second highest bidder, with more than £1 million from grants and £109,000 from fundraising. But of course, it wasn't enough. All the money which was donated to the museum is going to now be returned. This is the earliest known oil painting ever exhibited by the artist, and thought to be the only one depicting a Bristol scene. It had been lost for 150 years. There was a 1-week campaign during which time 1,700 people contributed to bring Turner Home fundraiser. They said that despite all of this, it just wasn't their night. The response from the public has been extraordinary. I don't know what's going to happen now it's in a private collection. Hopefully, they will loan it to this museum on a long-term basis, but I've yet to see that being reported. We shall see. Steve, yes, great minds think alike. Maybe the new owner will loan the paintings to the gallery. I believe that investing in art and paintings, it can be a way for the very wealthy to sort of silo off funds. So hopefully they are willing to share. Yeah, exactly. Be a pal, Richie Rich, anonymous person who's bought this. We've got some histories of enslavement now. Liverpool Black history researchers have discovered a slaver ship advert dating to 1805. This advert states that the vessel can hold, quote, about 185 slaves, and this comes to light as a city dock is being turned into a contemplation space. This is an advert for a 19th century British slaver ship. It's been found in Liverpool, where a site formerly at the centre of the transatlantic slave trade in enslaved people is now being transformed into a contemplation space. Liverpool's Black History Research Group found the advert for the Metis, or the Metis, dated to the 25th of July, 1805. They found it when they were looking into the history of the River Mersey's Canning Dock. This 220-year-old ad reads, quote, apply to Lake and Brown. We have on sale by private contract a remarkably fast sailing ship, Metis or Metis. Liverpool built, about 9 years old, copper fastened on the stocks. It's very well found and will carry, by the present act, about 185 slaves. Now lying in number 3 Graving Dock, which is a dry dock where she may be inspected. So for 200 years, Liverpool's dry docks maximised merchants' profits by allowing for quick and efficient maintenance of vessels, including those used to traffic people captured in Africa to the Americas during transatlantic slave trade. Slaver ships were returned to dry docks full of consumer goods for the British market, including British-made. They included items traded for British-made guns, which fueled conflict and capture. This toll that connects the dry dock history is now being acknowledged for the first time. There is going to be a £1 million transformation of the waterfront, including plans to convert number 2 dry dock into a contemplation space for the public. Quote, when you look at the history of Liverpool in the 18th century, there are lots of references to ships euphemistically described as ready for the African trade, and some of them which are very direct, like the advert we see here. Ships came into the wet docks, and if there was space in the dry docks, they'd go up pretty quickly. While they're being repaired, their goods were unloaded for sale at the quayside. Many things produced by enslaved people are clearly linked to colonial history, so rum, cotton, coffee, sugar, tobacco, fruits, Nicaragua wood, rosewood, and mother of pearl. The research group has revealed that one of the people named in the Metis or Meti advert was the ship's captain, John Brown, who made regular slaving voyages over a 30-year period, showing just how one individual could be involved in the enslavement of thousands of people. The first recorded slaving voyage from Liverpool was in 1699. The opening of Liverpool's Old Dock, the first enclosed commercial wet dock, 16 years later, made it easier for ships to get in and out. The innovations, along with Liverpool's location, fueled its growth as an international port, at the heart of which was the brutal trade in enslaved African people. Quote, this site really is unique. In the late 18th century, Liverpool controlled 80% of British slaving voyages. Because of these docks, but the very layered history of the site had been lost. Nobody in Liverpool could be very many steps away from the slavery economy. Transatlantic slavery is so central to British history that we need to keep talking about it. Quite right. I will keep an eye on this. And when this redevelopment has taken place, I will, as they're coming to sort of open it, I will reach out and see if I can go up there and chat to somebody about it. Staying with the history of enslavement, a document discovered in Massachusetts shows Baptist ministers took a very early stand against slavery. Of course, I did make a video about Benjamin Lay, who was a Quaker and a staunch abolitionist. So do go and check out that video as well. A scroll where Baptist ministers took an early stand against slavery has been rediscovered in Groton, Massachusetts. It was written in 1847 and signed by 16 Baptist ministers. They wanted to go on record saying they were against slavery. This is from the Reverend Diane Badger, who is the administrator of the American Baptist Church in Massachusetts. They thought that slavery was an abomination, so they came up with this declaration to protest against slavery. The document was written 14 years before the start of the Civil War and 16 years before the Emancipation Proclamation. Badger said the ministers carefully considered what they were doing. They had sent out to the association a question: would you be able to support someone as a missionary who was also a slaveholder? And the answer came back overwhelming: no, we could not. The church held onto the document but did not carefully track its location. It was packed and moved to the church's archival material. In the 20th century alone, the room full of papers shifted from Boston to Newton to Groton. So Badger launches a search for the document, and she starts far from home. Spots in Atlanta, Providence, Boston, and Cambridge were all checked. The document wasn't there. It was found entirely by accident. It was one of those serendipitous moments. One of the women that was working in the archives helping move things while they were building some more shelves opened a box, and the scroll was just sitting right on top of the box. The church held some public viewings of the scroll, but now there's plans to restore it and make a reproduction which can be put on permanent display. The original will be stored in a more secure place. Do you know what? I really love it when it's because it's one of the things that you're told not to do when it comes to archaeology or archival work, that go looking for a specific thing that's lost, because it's just usually a recipe to be disappointed. But of course, we have got examples where it has happened in the past. And there's a part of me, I mean, I don't know what I believe, but there's a part of me that sometimes things find their way into your hands when you've got, oh God, no, that's really, it's so woo-woo, it's so woo-woo, but I'm very glad it's been found. Talking of which, more historic documents have surfaced. This time they were stolen. 10 years ago, an employee used them as collateral to borrow money. The thief likely took the trove when he worked for the Dutch National Archives in 2015. 25 price documents stolen from the Netherlands National Archives in The Hague. including 16th century records of clandestine government affairs, a 15th century letter from a knight, and documents from the Dutch East India Company. Officials weren't aware the documents had been stolen until recently, when they were returned by Amsterdam police art detective Arthur Brand, who's known for recovering lost and stolen artworks and artifacts. Brad received an email recently from someone who'd found a storage box of old documents while clearing out a relative's attic. They sent me some pictures, and I immediately knew this was a treasure. Officials at the archives knew the documents were missing, but they thought they'd been simply misplaced. They managed more than 90 miles of archives, over 15 million photographs, and 300,000 maps and drawings. With such numbers, it's impossible to have a complete inventory of all documents. The box's content offers fascinating insights into Europe, India, Indonesia, South Africa, and Latin America. They've got accounts of naval wars, negotiations in imperial courts, distant voyages, and to well-explored regions, and tales of knights. Police think a former employee of the archive stole the documents in 2015. This individual then borrowed money from a friend and used the trove as collateral. The friend stored the documents in their attic, but the debtor died before retrieving them. So there, the investigation stops. Well, there we go. Isn't it good that it's been returned? Next up, has anybody been keeping up with friend of History After Dark and friend of me, Phil, and what he's been doing at Harvington Hall? If you are on the Harvington Hall Instagram and Facebook, check it out, because Phil is currently in one of their priest holes, and he is going to be in there for 48 hours. He's got some bread. I think he had some apples. He's got some water, and he's got a pot to piddle in. And he is doing live streams from his phone. So he turns it off in between. He's got a little LED candle, and you can see the live streams after they've aired. They're still on the Instagram and the Facebook. So if you go to Harvington Hall, and the reason why he is doing this is because he is raising money for the hall. So in the description box of this, on number 28, you'll see a link to this article, but you will also see a link to the fundraising page for the hall. Phil has just come off the back. He's entered the priest hole just after being helping to run, or rather putting together, the Harvington History Festival, which I spoke at last year, heavily pregnant, and I was very well looked after. And it's, from everything I've seen, it has been an absolute barnstorming success this year as well. And rather than celebrate, he's put himself into one of the priest hides. And I am hoping to see him exit. I'm hoping to be taking a field trip up there. And then hopefully the plan is I'll get a chance to sit down and talk to him when he's had a chance to recover from the experience. So he's going through this. The plan is to, at the end of the experience, after he's been through all of this, the plan is to stage what would be a priest hunt for an hour. And I think that's going to be deeply evocative and possibly quite upsetting. And I am fascinated to check it out. I'm also a little bit nervous for him and for me to see what's going to happen. They're Samantha. I mean, the priest hunts in this case do have the unfair advantage of knowing where he is, but they're going to perform it as a priest hunt, which of course this happened to Catholic priests, Roman Catholic priests. They were hidden in various places, and sometimes they weren't found, but sometimes they were yanked out, and then unspeakable things were done to them. So these these hiding places, they were life and death. Even if it's fake, it's scary to go through. I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly, particularly when you have been, for the preceding 47 hours, you have been sat in almost completely the dark. Today, he did have a visitor in the hole with him. The fabulous historian Matt Lewis went in to see what was going on. And I'm sure that would have boosted the morale, because you're alone with your own thoughts. And, you pop on to do a live for a few minutes, but you're concerned about saving the battery of your phone. And maybe you see some comments, but it's not the same as human interaction. So, yeah. It's... Check it out. Check out what they're up to. This is the third time he's done this. And I will say that on the previous 2 occasions, he promised it was never going to happen again. Guess what? He said the same thing this time too. That this is the last time he's doing it. I've heard that tune before, Phil. Heard that tune before. But I mean, this is experimental archaeology and fundraising, and possibly as a small bit of masochism. He seems to be doing really well. He does seem to be doing really well. He's uncomfortable. He says it's really hot. It's really hot. I don't think there'd be any point in him taking a book in there with him, because all he's got for light, which he uses to film his lives, is an LED candle. So he's just in there with his thoughts. To me, that is being alone in an old house overnight. No thanks. Being in a tiny dark room alone in an old house. No thanks. Knowing that there's going to be a priest hunt at the end of it. Third, no thanks. But good. I mean, it's an incredible cause, and protecting Harvington Hall. Harvington Hall is an incredible house, and the history of it. Julesy, you say that he does. He does play young Henry VIII. That's another thing he does as well. He is a man of many talents. And if you watched the documentary I was in, he was in the plague episode. You will have seen him covered in pustules, for he was a plague victim in that. And if you watch History After Dark, you will have seen him come down to our level, sink into the pool of our filth. So yes, check it out. And if you are willing / able, bung some cash their way. Our final new news is Mexico City has removed the statue of Che Guevara and Fidel Castro, which was on a plinth. They were taken on a heavy machine, cigar and all, and transported, they're not quite sure where. Cubans protested it, considering the two guerrillas part of the city's historical memory, and they spent a good chunk of their time in Tabacalera plotting a revolution against the wretched Batista. This is the quote from this. The other corner is the President of the Republic herself, who smiled at her political adversary's gesture and asked the two bronze men in order to take them to another park. So there is discussion and debate as to whether this should have been done. And this article says, interventions in public spaces are not things to be taken lightly, nor are the names assigned to streets and towns and cities. In Mexico City, however, the laxity is evident just by taking a stroll. The same applies to commercial stalls scattered in every corner as to the hospitality businesses that invade the sidewalks without a care in the world. Statues also adhere to this anarchy. Okay, if that's the way you want to describe it. Anti-monuments are common on Paseo de la Reforma, one of the city's main thoroughfares. These are symbols that people place overnight in memory or vindication of painful causes, such as femicide, the deaths of children in a school fire, or miners who were buried underground in an accident. No one dared remove them because no one had done justice to these victims before. It is understandable. The authorities continue the same arbitrary approach. One morning, a citizen wakes up to find the statue of Christopher Columbus has disappeared from the plinth. Another day, without warning or explanation, Fidel Castro and Che Guevara are taken away. A nation's relationship to its statues is so culturally specific, and I do not know enough about Mexico to weigh in on where this activity sits as their relationship to their statues and their memorials. From what this article is saying, and this article is from El País, from what the article is saying, this is part of a wider flexibility when it comes to memorialization, both from individual citizens setting up their own that remain untouched to government and perhaps pressure groups shifting those things around. So I thought I'd share it. I don't really know what to make of it, but I know this is sparking discussion and I think dispute as well. But now, though, it's time for us to hop into the ding-dongs. Let's talk about some ding-dongs. This happened. An elderly man drove down the Spanish Steps in Rome and got stuck. He told police he was, quote, wrong to drive down the steps. Firefighters had to recover his vehicle. He was not injured, but was taken to hospital. He was negative for drug and alcohol. He said he was going to work and took a wrong turn. People aren't sure if he was using a GPS device. Presumably not. It was a grey Mercedes-Benz A-Class that got stuck halfway down the 18th century staircase. They had to use a crane at the foot of the steps to lift the vehicle off the stairway. There was some damage to the vehicle, but they aren't sure if it's a result of Tuesday's incident. I mean, it's entirely possible that this guy's got previous for driving into things and onto things that he shouldn't. They did close the steps for the public. He does have a valid driver's license. Under Italian law, people over the age of 80 are obliged to renew their license every 2 years. So Brian, that is what I thought. I wondered if it was that, but he said he got confused. He said he got confused. I mean, that's pretty confusing. Stuart should have used a Mini Cooper. You were only supposed to load a bloody doors off. It doesn't stop there, pals. There's this happened. What? An ancient Phrygian tomb has been illegally converted into a cafe. What? The operators of the business decorated the protected interior of the rock chambers with ornamental items. They affixed them with nails, and they also installed electrical wiring directly into the ancient stone. Transparent doors were added to seal off the tomb chambers during winter, and a wood or coal-burning stove was placed inside for heating. They even put a swing outside the monument to attract visitors. It is a registered archaeological asset. All modifications were carried out without approval. Images and videos showcasing the altar site were even shared on the cafe's social media, captioned as, quote, "The glory of the stone remains." Baffled. I am baffled by this. Experts have sharply criticised the unauthorised repurposing of the tomb, stressing the cultural and spiritual importance of such sites. They said that, quote, "not even a chair should be placed next to a registered monument without permission, let alone converting it into a cafe. These are burial chambers of spiritual meaning for the people who lived at the time. We've unfortunately turned them into amusement parks. They even drilled into the rocks to install electricity. Who knows? Maybe they're making tea and coffee right inside the tomb. All infrastructure work was carried out without permission in a registered structure is a violation. Legal proceedings have started and they are closely monitoring the matter. The operator of the venue claimed they'd already applied for usage permissions and were awaiting a response. We weren't acting in bad faith, we just wanted to contribute to the region's development, he said. He also mentioned that although they paid a compensation fee, it did not apply to this specific area. It was confirmed that officials had visited the site, removed all furnishings and documented the space. He added that their business would continue operating outside the tomb area. Sometimes I wonder about various things. Currently, I'm trying to fathom how I can express my thoughts on this without getting immediately banned. And do you know what? I don't think I have the capacity. What on earth? What on earth? I mean, Jessie, I don't know who the neighbours are. I don't know. Is nobody keeping an eye on these national trusts? I don't know. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine if one day you just rocked up to Westminster Abbey and right in between the memorial to Elizabeth and Mary, Queen of Scots, just right in between, somebody had set up a cafe. You could get a little iced latte in between two queens. Have a little sit down. Put your iPod on. Why not? Just go to Giza. Go to Giza. Hop in a pyramid. Just climb up top of a pyramid. Let's just put a glass observation chairs and glass observation platform with just chairs and tables. Put a Costa up there. I enjoy the sarcasm. I like it, but I'm spending the local cemetery, so I get it. Samantha, if someone started a business in my grandma's grave, I'd lose my mind. Fair point. I think that's a fair point. My husband's just texted me saying we don't deserve nice things. If that had been London, you could be certain the local council would still chase them down for a business rates payment. HMRC wouldn't miss either. They would be registered for that. ET says there's no way they asked permission because everyone at the area knew it was a no-go for a commercial site. You would imagine so. Brian, anybody seen the YouTube video of how rom-coms of present day have a meet cute at a coffee house? Part seance? How the new one, the YouTube video is, I went sat down for a coffee and I had a date with the dead. No, don't do it. We don't need more of that content. No need for a adpocalypse again. Westminster Abbey does. There is a cafe on the grounds of Westminster Abbey, but it's not in between the graves. I don't even know if it's actually. I mean, the same thing. They've got a gift shop as well. But yeah, it's not. It's not in between the tombs. This clown, don't know what he was thinking. A kilt-wearing attacker smashed the case holding Scotland's Stone of Destiny. Why? Don't know. Man from Australia charged with malicious mischief for smashing a glass case holding the Stone of Destiny. Arnold Logan, a plea of 35, appeared at Perth Sheriff's Court on Monday. His address was given in Sydney. He wasn't asked to enter a plea, and he was detained until a hearing next week. They were called to a disturbance at Perth Museum. They found a kilt-wearing man attempting to smash the case containing the Royal Rock. It's been used at coronations. It was brought down. It's the English stole it. It got sent back. It was given back in 1996. It was moved back down for the coronation of Charles III in 2023. It was then put on display at the renovated Perth Museum last year. The stone wasn't damaged in the incident. See, Jessie, he hasn't entered a place. We don't know what he thinks. I am wondering if this is the very thing. I wonder if he was. I think he. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he has spoken to somebody claiming to be a genealogist who has told him that he is the true descendant of, I don't know, the Bruce or something, and thus he is the real King of Scots. And he put on his tartan, probably the tartan that some other genealogist told him was in fact his family tartan, and he's gone to smash up the glass and, I don't know, sit upon the stone so he can claim his place as King of Scots. I don't know. I don't know. But I fear there is a family tree somewhere. Somebody's drawn a family tree before this happened. Is my fear. I think that's where this has gone. Somebody got overly concerned about who their 13th time great-grandfather was, and it's made them. Oh, Brian. Oh, you've got it. He asked like Meta AI or something. Oh no. Yeah, that makes even more sense. That makes even more sense. Somewhere, I'm not a gambling woman, but if I were, I'd put a fiver down that somewhere a bodged family tree dating back to, I don't know, the 1100s is at the core of this. I betcha. So, clownery, skullduggery. Oh, yeah, that's another option. Maybe he spoke to a psychic who did past life regressions. Can I just, for one, before we hop on to events and exhibitions, can I just, for one teeny tiny moment, tell you how many times I have been informed that somebody is the reincarnation of Anne Boleyn? Because it's many times, to the point where I think to myself, how does reincarnation work? Because at this point, that soul must be spread wafer thin. Because every bugger's got a bit. Yeah. Almost as many people, maybe more people, around about the same number of people who claim to be a reincarnation of Anne Boleyn. There's another group that also claim to be a direct descendant of Anne Boleyn. Not. I check. Oh, do you mean through her sister Mary? No, friends. Direct. Go. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody's ever the help. Nobody's ever the help. And you're absolutely right. I've never heard anybody say that they are Jane Boleyn, Lady Rochford. Do you know, I haven't heard that many people say they are. I don't think I've ever heard somebody tell me. I'm talking about people who've told me they're a reincarnation of Anne Boleyn. I haven't heard many people say they're a reincarnation of Henry VIII. Walter Raleigh, that comes up a weird amount, actually. Not Drake. Walter Raleigh comes up a lot. Walter Raleigh and Anne Boleyn are the ones that I've heard the most, which is kind of weird that it's those two that have captured the imagination so. So let's talk about events and exhibitions. The Huntington has got some Chaucer stuff happening. Their exhibition is titled Stories from the Library, The Tales Through Time. And this is the image here is from Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. This opened June 21st, and it's going through to the 1st of December at the Huntington Museum in California. So if you are around, then please do check it out and let us know what you think. Also, as with all of the exhibitions you're going to see, if they are in a physical location, where possible, I think in every case I've been able to do it, I've got a link to the exhibition itself, but I have also got a link to accessibility information if you should need that. We have got, this is online. Somebody has made a RPG, which I think is a role player game. Basically, you can role play as if you are walking through Hereford in 1642. Now, I have watched the video of the gameplay and it looks super cool. And they are calling it RPG, Life Sim, Education, Immersive Sim, 3D, Open World. These are the tags that it's got. It looks incredible. I am going to try and play it. It was released on the 5th of February, 2025. The graphics look amazing, but I don't know how to do games. So I just watched the video of the gameplay. But yeah, super cool. Check it out. And next up, I want to share something that's come in from one of the readers. Our lovely friend Rebecca has started this Instagram. It is about museums, history, and the accessibility questions of things in Sydney. So this is looks like a really great guide that's starting up. So if you are in Sydney or making plans to go to Sydney, then make sure you follow along with Rebecca and she will point you in the right direction. I have no doubt. So yes, thank you for sharing that with me, Rebecca. This is at Getty, the Kingdoms of Pylos, Warrior Princes of Ancient Greece. This is at the Getty Villa that's just reopened. And encounter the latest discoveries from Messenia, an epicenter of the Mycenaean civilization in the late Bronze Age Greece, displayed for the first time outside of Europe. This opened on the 27th of June 2025, and it's going until into next year, January the 12th, 2026. And this is a free exhibition. It's exhibition. All of the exhibitions at Getty are included in your free timed entry reservations, and you can apparently reserve tickets 6 weeks in advance. If you get a chance to see this, please do let us know what you think. Steve said there's another game called Manor Lords where you build medieval settlements which have a walkthrough mode. Lily says that W is for walk forward. Okay. So I just press. I find them. I'm hoping there'll be instructions. I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to check out Manor Lords as well. I'm going to learn to play games. I'm going to learn. She says, hoping. Hey, look, I went from not really knowing anything about anything to being able to edit all my own videos. Like, I taught myself. I'm sure I can. Yeah, there will hopefully be a tutorial mode. If I can teach myself from literally no skills base at all, I'm not saying that I'm, editing like Spielberg. I'm not saying that. But if I can go from having no knowledge to knowing how to figure out how to set up lighting, sound, test sound, edit videos, upload videos, if I can figure that out, I'm sure I can figure it out. Maybe I'll put it up on Gabby's tablet. I mean, I'm just slightly concerned that he might be like, and now I want one with a sword. If there's any castles involved, his first port of call is going to be like, where's the dungeon? And then he'll say, I want to see under the dungeon. He likes it. Every now and again, he'll look at his daddy and he'll go, I'm going to put you under the dungeon. And I say to him, Gabriel, what's that called? And he goes, the oubliette. It's deeply threatening. He's like, Daddy, I'm going to put you in the oubliette. Daddy, stop. David's offered to help me. He plays video games, so he'll be able to help me. He also likes to go, Daddy, stop provoking me. I'll put you in the oubliette. In fairness, Daddy is usually provoking him. He isn't. He's using the word correctly. And he's using oubliette correctly, which I think is also very cool. He learned oubliette when we went to Corfe Castle. Sarah, kids are haunted, and you will not convince. I think I told you, I think I might have mentioned this before, but it still plays on my mind. It was about a year and a half. It was before Dominic. I might have even been before I was pregnant with Dominic. And I'm laying in bed, putting Gabriel to bed, and he starts talking to me, and he says, well, Mummy, before, when I was older. What? But Mummy, before when I was older, I'm sorry, I would like to leave. What do you mean, before when you were older? He's like, before when I was older. Oh, okay. What's this about? And he also told my mother-in-law when she was talking about her dad, she was like, oh, he was like, no, I've met him. And he said his name. He came to play with me. And I was like, he died before you were born. What do you know about? What do you mean you met him? How do you know his name? And my husband's like, oh, he knows his name because it's my middle name. I'm like, I'm sorry. You think that our 3 to 4 year old has computed that Daddy's middle name is his maternal grandfather's name with no other information? Or he's haunted. On the plus side, though, your brother said his late name was Mummy when he was asked what's your last name. It was police car. See, Gabby's going through a phase of going, Mummy, what's your name? And so I am currently training him that my name is Duchess. So I am very hopeful that I'm going to be called Duchess by my son. He didn't say that. He said he came to play. Kids are haunted. So, the Autry Museum in California, Black Cowboys, an American Story. This is really cool. This opened on the 14th of June, and it's going until the 4th of January, 2026. And So this is a collection of historical and contemporary objects, photographs, and personal stories to convey the work and spirit of Black cowboys and reveal how Black men and women turn their equestrian skills to popular performances in rodeo, Western film, and musical. There have been videos created for the exhibition highlighting individual Black cowfolk, past and present, who have kept the traditions alive. Oh, my husband also reminded me as well that after he started talking about his granddad coming to play, this book that we were always reading that was very popular went missing, which, having met my husband's maternal grandfather, is exactly the sort of provoking wind-uppery that he would have done in life. So that happened too. And my husband's brought it up, and he doesn't believe in ghosts either, just like I don't. I don't believe in ghosts, except for the ones that I've met. That was upsetting. V&A in London is doing an exhibition called Marie Antoinette's Style. This is exploring the lasting influence of the most fashionable and ill-fated queen. This is 250 years of design, fashion, film, and art. And it opens in September, on the 20th of September, 2025. I'm not sure how it goes for, but yes, it's opening later this year. And it's a paid ticket job. So if you go on a weekday, it is £23. If you go on a weekend, it's £25. However, I think if you are a member of the V&A, or maybe as well, you get it for free. If you are part of, worth checking, if you are part of Art Fund, I think you get some hefty discounts. You may also get discounts for other things like military, NHS, etc., etc. So do see if you are eligible for a discount before booking. But it does look incredible, and I would like to check it out, I think. Next up, my lovely friend Lauren Johnson has written a book on Margaret Beaufort, and I was very privileged to be sent a digital copy of this. So I have been reading it secretly months before it's due to be released. It is available currently on pre-order, and until the 31st of July, so you have a few days left. If you go to Waterstones online with the code SUMMER25, you can get 25% off the pre-order price of this. It's good, guys. It's a really good book. It's a really good book. And I am very, if you may well have also read her book on Henry VI, which is her, I believe that's her most recent book until this one. She's a fabulous writer. I am biased because she's also my pal, but she is a fabulous writer, and this book is brilliant, and you can get a discount on it as well. And I'm very keeping my fingers crossed that she and I are going to find time to actually meet up in person so I can quiz her all about Margaret Beaufort. If you watched any of my series that I did on pregnancy in the past versus now, Lauren very kindly took the time to sit down with me to talk about notions of confinement and birth, and we explicitly discussed the experience of Margaret Beaufort and what her research has shown. Also, she, like me, had a baby in the pandemic with all the chaos that came along with that. So you can check out that video as well, and hold on to your butts for our interview later. But pre-order this book, and it's going to be published on the 6th of the 11th, 2025 in hardback. So huzzah, huzzah. Yes, congratulations, Lauren. It's a fabulous book. Rob Rinder's back on TV on Channel 4. He's going to be on Channel 4 on Thursday, the 31st of July, talking to Fern Riddell, among other people, talking about the possible question that Queen Victoria may have married her Highland servant, John Brown, and potentially had a secret child with him. So I haven't seen the programme, I look forward to checking it out and seeing what research they are going to come up with. Very interesting. Ricky, fascinating that you should bring up the group therapy videos that I used to do. It's almost like it's a prompt, because my next slide is the self-promotion slide, because guess what, friends? Boom! Monarchs Anonymous is going to be live on the 14th and 15th of October at the Other Palace Theatre in London. We're doing it. So 8 p.m. on the 14th, 8 p.m. on the 15th. And the monarchs in question this time, as you can see, I'm sat there in the middle looking distressed. We have got Charles II, Marie Antoinette, Henry VIII, Mansa Musa, and Sophia Duleep Singh. So there we go. There are some tickets still available. So if you are going to be in London in October and you've got some evening spare, there you go. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a really fun time. That is almost my last thing. I might be adding a new finishing point. And what I'm going to add in, I've just got it here. It's called Funny to Finish, because the lovely Jenna sent me a meme, and I thought I'd leave on that note. So this meme about the world's oldest cheese found in an Egyptian tomb, but it might be filled with a deadly disease. Can't drink the sarcophagus juice, can't eat the tomb cheese. What even is the point of archaeology? Chanting, ancient cheese, the deadly disease, ancient cheese, the deadly disease. And Jenna sent this to me on account of my statement that you were not allowed to lick the history or the archaeology. So I thought that was a fun thing to finish with. So if you do find other fun historical memes, maybe that can be a way that I finish up our sessions, because that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much. We are coming in, like I always say, at about 2.5 hours. This is the way things start going. And I have had a great time, and I hope you've enjoyed this as well. If you've been watching live, thank you for sticking around. If you are watching on the playback, thank you as well. Please do click all the things: like, subscribe, bell icon, select all. YouTube does sometimes tell you when I'm uploading. I got loads of comments being like, I was told I was here, and also about the video I put up. So it does occasionally do it, but in case it doesn't, please do head over to my website, www.katrinamarchant.com, and then in the contact page, please put your email address in the box there and hit sign up, and then I can add you to my list and send you out an email once a week. You can also get my merch there. I've got some t-shirts, and I'm thinking, because my husband, Mr. Dr. Cat, also known as Jamie, has had a phenomenal idea for a set of t-shirts where you take concepts from popular literature and TV and you make it into essentially the staff version of that. So perhaps it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I think you will love some of the stuff that he has come up with, and I'm thinking about having a potential section of Mr. Dr. Cat merch, because he's got some really funny ideas, and I think that you would. I think it's my sense of humour, and I think it might be something that lots of you will enjoy too. So I'm figuring out how I can get that to happen, and get the artwork made. I may, in fact, pay Catherine's son, who does the merch for History After Dark, and do that, because he's very good. There we go, friends. I hope you're going to have a lovely rest of your Monday, whatever you're doing, whatever point of Monday it is for you, and certainly a wonderful rest of your week. I hope it's not too hot where you are, and I hope you're going to have a great time, and enjoy the last few days of July before we start hurtling into August. Thank you ever so much for spending this time with me. Do take care of yourselves, and I look forward to speaking to you all in my next video. But for now, though, bye-bye.